All right, cool. Welcome, guys, to another episode of 40 and Fit, where we take a deep dive into the mind of a male on the verge of a midlife crisis. It's pretty cool, right? That's not too bad. We kind of go deep into this whole thing. My name is John Baruch. I will be the, top sailor of the day. We are missing
Top sailor, can I be the first mate?
There you go. Here we go already. We're starting already.
Professor and Marianne.
Oh, wait. Who would I be then?
You just said you were the...
I don't know these. I don't know the levels. Oh, I thought we did this.
So who really is in a midlife crisis here? They don't even know Gilligan's Island's characters. What the hell's going on?
I know who the
with
characters are. I just don't know the rankings. Wait,
the
was there
skipper.
rankings?
You got the skipper and Gilligan's the
first mate. The little buddy.
He's the only mate.
He's the only mate. And then there's a professor who did I don't know what. And
Marianne.
Ginger. Who
did-
were they?
He did Marianne.
He did
Ginger and Marianne.
That's true. So they had porn stars. That's cool. That works. That works. All right. So today's episode is number, again, 24?
24
total.
third of this beautiful second season.
So I just want to say happy holidays to everyone reaching out, because this is going to be launched probably right before New Year's. We're hoping to do this. Just to introduce everyone, to my right is my man, Dave Kalari, and he's also AKA Superstar Stud. I don't know. Awesome.
Okay,
dude.
cool. I'll take it.
Yeah.
That's my Christmas present from him.
I used the word stud. There you go. We are missing our other main mate, Mike Hoban. Sucks for you, Mike. You're out. Cool.
Are you mateys? She be missing from the podcast.
This is how we get. This is good. To my left, we have our special guest today, Juan. How do you pronounce your last name?
Pla, P-L-A.
It's
Pla.
that easy, guys.
Yeah.
Juan Pla. Yeah, we are finally recording in a new place today. Unfortunately, I'm
Very fortunate.
fortunate in the fact that, hey, I'll be honest, I lost my job. And then we had to leave the location. And we brought all our stuff here to, can we say where we are now? Oh, so now we're at the gym in Englewood, New Jersey, almost close to the hood, not exactly, but, and this is our new home, and we'll be switching up a little bit and focusing on a whole bunch of other things. This year again, this season, like we said, we wanted to focus a little bit more on education, what else? Business-wise and stuff like that. And we wanted a little bit more interaction with everyone.
More entrepreneurship, more education, more
right.
actual subjects.
Not that we're going to get a little bit more serious, but we're just going to throw more subjects out there, because I think we're just going to be just as...
You have to be able to spell serious before you can get serious.
Then we can't do it, because I can't. So we're good to go. Like I said, today's guest is Juan. Juan, tell us a little about yourself, what you do here at the gym. What did you do here at the gym? And stuff like that as well. And and then we'll go into a couple of questions.
All right.
A little background.
Again, my name is Juan. Last
Juan.
name Pla, P-L-A. Couldn't afford any more letters. And
What is that, though? Real quick.
it's actually very old Spanish.
Very old Spanish.
Yeah, very old Spanish.
'Cause
So
there's
I
new
was
Spanish?
told and
Like El Spanish.
and taught. But my family is Cuban.
Oh, that is very old
So
stuff.
my parents were born and raised in Cuba. They met here in the States in North Bergen, and I popped out in Jersey City a few years later. I am 48 years old.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
That's weird, Jersey City, because there's no docks for the raft to come up on.
Yeah, I was born in a hospital that doesn't even exist anymore.
In Jersey City.
Yes.
I was
Margaret
born
Haig.
I was born in a hospital in West New York that doesn't even exist anymore.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
grew up
there's
in
a
West
hospital
New
not
York.
there anymore. Yeah.
I grew up in West New York, and I know exactly the place you're talking about. It is no longer there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been a trainer now. Been a personal trainer now for about 28 years. I've been with the gym 17 and a half years. I was a personal training supervisor for 15 of those years. That was a delight.
Isn't it always?
But my heart and soul has always belonged to the personal training part of it. Working with my clients and working alongside my peers. Always, fun times with that. I'm a father of 2. I'm a husband of 1.
We like to redact those names just so you know.
I
We
gotta make
keep
sure
family
I
outside.
get all the details. I gotta, yeah. So my son's 16, my daughter 22. My wife just turned
You started
46.
early.
Yeah. Yes. And I'm kind of glad because there's a benefit to being young in parenting. And my brother's actually just recently married in May, and I think they're contemplating having their first, and he's 47.
Oh,
So
wow. Yeah. To be a 60-year-old
that's gonna be hard breaking into it, but I wish him a lot of luck with that. But yeah, I'm happy as a clam. I don't have any complaints. I've had my ups and downs like everyone else at this stage in my life, like looking back, reflecting on things, and always trying to stay one step ahead of myself by really having a lot of moments of reflection and self-evaluating and just being really, really honest with myself, and which is why I have a hard time getting along with people. Because I don't think that people self-evaluate enough. I don't think people reflect enough. I don't think people are very honest with themselves enough. And in the game of personal training, I really try to perfect the art of my clients being honest with themselves. And most of the time, that means that they have to come to the conclusion that maybe like the lean and mean lifestyle isn't for them, but maybe being in a better mental state than they were when they first met me, being in a healthier state. That doesn't necessarily mean losing 30 pounds, but most definitely means moving better with those 30 pounds on them. There's a lot to health that we're finding out this day and age that doesn't involve the vanity of it. And I think that it's important for people to understand, especially now coming towards the new year, where people start thinking about, oh, this is the new me. This is gonna be the year. This is gonna be it. I'm gonna be able to see my abs. I'm gonna be able to lift such and such pound. Yeah, today is the day where everything changes. And then the pressure that comes along with that, and all of the falsehoods and the lies that they tell themselves, it sets up the year to fail before it even starts.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm here to welcome everybody to a whole new world of success that has nothing to do with that lean and mean like falsehood that they've been beaten with.
Right.
Through social media or literature, anything that they decided to like read up on and decide, this is it. This is the lean and mean year. I'm like, no, this is the better year.
Right.
This is the more consistent year. This is the year that by the end of this new year, you'll be like, my God, I didn't know it could be this easy. And it could be, as long as you are real with yourself and acknowledge that, it's a gradual process, and that the key to lifestyle changes is to make sure it's not too far off from the lifestyle you actually want.
Right.
A gradual process where like the change isn't so abrupt. You're dealing with a habit at a time, maybe one habit a month, which will equal to 12 new habits by the end of the year. I mean, that's big.
That's hard.
Yeah,
it's really hard. One habit period is hard.
Right. So it's like
habit.
If you're able to simmer down a little bit and just be gradual about it, be honest,
Be realistic.
Be realistic.
I think that's the problem that this whole New Year's New You thing that's basically faded within the last couple, I guess 5 to 7 years. That big jump that everyone looked for the the beginning of the year, it's faded. That whole thing is I think they put so much, like you said, put so much pressure on themselves. They just completely fail, and then just walk away from it, right?
Right.
And it's like, why do you ever start that way? Like, it doesn't even make sense. You
We
don't go
live
right to 12th grade. You go to first grade first.
We live in
man.
a society of extremes.
Right.
That's what it is. Like you see, it's all over us now. It's all over us. It's either this way or that way. The middle has no voice.
Yeah.
Like no voice whatsoever. Like whether it's in politics, whether it's in the way people handle this pandemic nowadays. And trust me, I tell you, the reasonable and practical people are out there, and we may in fact be the majority, but we have no voice.
Yeah. Definitely.
So that's why things like
because people want to hear they want to hear someone say something that they want to hear. They don't ever want to hear the truth. I think that's the problem, is they don't want to hear that bad news that it's not going to happen instantly. It's not going to happen. They want to know, yeah, it could happen in 3 weeks. Everyone expects that instant gratification. That's the problem. Correct. I think that happened in the past with the way the mindset is when it comes to fitness and health and wellness in itself.
For the extremes, the extreme folks, whatever your side is, they deal in absolutes. So they always want to be right.
Right.
So they're busy shouting over one another. Hey, dickhead, I'm right. No, asshole, I'm right. Whereas the people in the middle seem to understand that it's a spectrum, so you're going to operate in there. So most of the people in the middle, even though it should be the loudest voices, are usually busy doing the work.
Right.
And the people in the middle can actually register, like they can understand and grasp the fact that those assholes you're talking about, every single one of them is right, every single one of them is wrong. It's just a matter of like who's listening, whose unique perspective is going to take a piece of information for each person and make it into their own. Like there's a lot of authorities out there in fitness these days where I watch them. And again, some of them are great. Some of them are great. Some of them are.
V-Shred.
Let's preface this by saying that when I say fitness authorities and people I listen to, I'm in no way, shape, or form talking about influencers or these scam artists out there. I'm talking about legit people. So I'm not even like legit people, like illegitimate people. Don't even bother. I'm not even talking about you. I'm not going to give you that respect. I'm not going to give you that recognition. I'm just going to talk about people that I feel have a strong grasp on practical terms and practices that enable us to be a little bit more accountable to our actions, make it more accessible to people who are actually looking and making an effort to making changes in their lives. So in saying that, I know that all these authorities that are out there, there are certain keywords, phrases, and practices that they go about where it catches my attention because I'm a student as well. You know, some people might, label me as an expert, and cool. But the thing is, even experts have teachers.
Right. They had to learn somewhere.
Right. And if they're a true expert, they know that we're always going to have teachers. We don't stop learning. So constantly watching a lot of like Dr. Mike Israetel, there's Paul Carter, there's Lane Norton. There's so many out there. So many out there to learn from, and then you see these guys actually at times even going at it with themselves, not understanding that, hey guys, you're all right. You're all right. Some of you have a different approach and verbiage to certain things. You don't have to battle it out,
Right.
Because trust me when I tell you, I'm learning from you. I'm learning from you. You guys are doing your job, so you don't have to go at it with one another. Just coexist as best you can.
Bring it all the information
And
together.
and I think that's where the newbie starts getting confused and then creates an extreme world all by themselves because they feel they have to choose one and go with that.
Right.
I'm like, no, dude, you can choose 20 of them.
Well, it's kind of like CrossFit, right? It was really extreme with CrossFit because they were the only way to do it, only way to get fit, only way to look a certain way when injuries prevail.
And I think CrossFit's awesome.
I think it's pretty good too if
I
you
think
do it correctly.
CrossFit's the fastest way to make zero gains.
Well, it depends.
I
It
mean,
depends
there
how
are
you
people that
approach
have
it.
seen really good gains too, though.
Right.
It's like, how do you battle
It really
those
depends
guys?
on you approach it because I think CrossFit started as a minimalist approach, believe it or not. It was a something where it was supposed to be in and out and done.
Right.
And the longest workout that existed was probably 20
20
minutes.
minutes,
in length.
yeah, I remember.
And then it exploded into this humongous thing where people just started corrupting what it was supposed to be. Now, of course, professional CrossFitters have much longer workouts because now they have the CrossFit Games. So, of course, they have to make it's like a living now.
Right. They're
So
competing
these
financially,
workouts are
right.
way long. So they've accommodated to these workouts because again they're trying to compete, sponsorship, all these things. But people that are a little bit more earthly, if you will, mortal, they can take what
earthly.
CrossFit was to one degree or another. They can take a more minimalist approach to CrossFit and avoid the injuries and accept the fact that it's not a bodybuilder's type of approach. So, to Dave's point where it's, the fastest track to zero gains, to a certain extent I agree with what he's saying there because I know David, I know where he comes from. But there's a certain gain to that as long as you understand what you will in fact be gaining from it.
A physical therapy bill.
And the nutrition.
That's all you want.
Well, again, if you're working with a jackass who thinks, that he's a purist when it comes to CrossFit, that he is actually a great coach. And one of the things about, what? I would love to actually meet a CrossFit coach who's actually denied clientele because they realize that it wasn't for that client.
Wow. I mean, I think you'd have to go back to the beginning of CrossFit to find
Correct.
those.
Right.
Because now these days it's all about the money, right?
Correct.
It's only about memberships. It's
Right.
all about the numbers, and that's what you see. Because again, CrossFit's free online. I mean, you can literally get the workouts
Right.
then and there. And all you're doing is paying for a box.
Right.
But yeah, to meet a CrossFit coach that's legitimately about actual progression and seeing that the results for their clients. And also, you know, we'll turn away clients like us as personal trainers at a certain point. Like you said, you've been in it for how long as a trainer?
28 years. Man.
28 years. We've been in it for 20 years. We've gained the right to be picky about who we deal with. You know, I know that.
Yes, 100%. I think it's no different than psychiatry or psychology. And you know, someone goes to therapist for emotional or mental gains. And the thing is that, again, you have to be ready for those things.
Yeah.
Personal training is really no different.
Yeah.
Fitness is no different. You get nutritional help, you know, registered dietitians in terms of what they can offer a person. None of this matters if the person really isn't ready.
Right.
And we hope day to day that more people are ready than not. But the fact of the matter is some people just aren't ready. So, again, it's something you have to have open arms to, an open mind to. Like,
Well, yeah, you got to get these people to that point to know whether they're ready or not. That's a big
Right.
thing, because everyone thinks that they're ready,
right.
just because they say it in their head. But then once they start moving, or someone shows them exercise that they can't move, all of a sudden you see all the instabilities and all, you know, the tightness, and they're like, oh no, I'm ready to do this, and they're sore for the next 48 hours, and then they think they broke something, tore something, or
Right.
they're like, no, you're not good for me. You know, I've dealt with people like that all the time. I'm like,
Well, that's where the so-called Fit Pro, again, they're trying to meet that demand of instant gratification.
Right.
And
'Cause they wanna keep a
literally
client, apparently,
cripple
yeah.
the client on the first round. And some people may be turned on by that. Other people will be turned off.
Right.
Most people will be turned off immediately by that. You know, so someone has to be able to modify as they go. You know, fitness professionals have to be able to modify on the fly.
yeah, oh yeah,
And it's like,
but it takes experience to do that.
right.
There-
It
there-
takes experience. It takes a shitload of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a shit ton of humility to be able to say, "Ooh, I was wrong going into it. I gotta step
switch it
back.
back, yep.
I gotta switch it into something else."
Yeah, absolutely.
And most people just don't have that. And again, I'm not gonna lie, it comes with experience. It does come with experience. I don't expect a 20-year-old, a 20-something-year-old to know what I know. Because I was at that point,
yeah.
that 20-something-year-old also.
Yeah.
I was just I was ahead of my time, I'm not gonna lie. I could say that about myself, but I had a very good mentor. I really
Who's
did.
your mentor?
Oh God, Alfonso Duran, who honestly I don't know if he's
Even in the
alive or
game
dead right now, but Alfonso Duran was my first and foremost teacher, and he was the man. He was the best. And then everything that I teach a client, one way or another, his voice is there. You know, for so many voices that I've had in my lifespan as a trainer, I swear to God, if I didn't know any better, every person that I follow, every person that I've read up on, and I've adopted their teachings, I could swear they spoke to this man at one point. So this guy was, and again, he was also Cuban, fresh off the boat. He opened a shithole in West New York, and he trained a lot of guys there. You know, my first job was basically cleaning floors, toilets, mirrors, and watching this man work with these animals that he worked with, and they adored him, they worshipped him. And when you look at his programming, and it's so amazing because his programming was, I mean, it was very basic bodybuilding maneuvering. His movements, he didn't do like 10 exercises per muscle. He did like maybe 2 or 3, and he worked on the failure system.
Oh,
And if anything, he followed what now people are, is so popular now, reps in reserve. Alfonso was using that back in 1991, maybe even earlier than that. And he would progress you, starting with, you know, maybe 70% of your maximum, and work you 70 to 75 to 80. He would work you up weekly. Like by the time your mesocycle was done, you were going all out. The intensity and the volume were both there by the end of like 4 to 6 weeks, whatever. This guy was using this before it became language
Right.
that you see now all over the place. So when I see this, I'm like, oh yeah, Alfonso taught me that. Oh yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
So everything that's now introduced as new, I'm so comfortable with it because it's like verbiage I've seen before.
Right, it's the evolution. I mean, it just comes full,
Right. It
full
just
circle.
goes around, and anything that's worthwhile sticks around.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Like
You know,
the
it
basics.
just sticks. Right. It
The
just
basics.
sticks around.
Right.
So Alfonso, God bless him, and I hope you're well if you're still out there. And I hate the fact that I've lost touch with this man, but this guy was the man for me. Like, and it still is. And then after a while, then I learned things from Mike Mensor was a very big
Mensor, yeah.
influence. Mensor was an influence in my life. / Yates, Dorian Yates was
Yates.
a
Yeah, those back in the days.
they shared a similar style, but it wasn't the same style. Like Dorian is definitely one to say that Mike was he was out of his mind. He and his brother Ray, and but it would learn from Mensor to Yates. Of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger was in there. You learn about volume from him, and overall just basic bodybuilding. Like so many things.
Because it worked for them.
It worked for them, and believe it or not, it works.
It works. That's the whole
It
thing.
really does work, but it doesn't mean you have to be a bodybuilder for these
Nope.
things to work for you.
Right.
And, because again, at the end of the day, now you bring in the word progression. And
gotta
the
see
concept
results,
of
man.
progression, you can adopt any of these training styles. As long as you're progressing in them and you're being pure to their form, you're going to be okay. And then nutritional components involved as well.
Yeah.
Where you're enhancing recovery, which is, I think, more important than the stimulus that you're providing through training. The recovery is just as important, if not more.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So it's like,
Overtraining is a huge thing these days.
well, a lot of people don't really overtrain these days.
Well,
they think
the-
they do, but
the
they
people
don't.
that
They just
do-
train stupid. Doesn't mean they overtrain.
Yep.
There's a
That's
big
good one.
difference.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a very big difference between overtraining, which most people, I don't think ever, like your client James, who you train
Call
every
him
month.
out.
That guy reaches at one point in his stage of his training, that man reaches overtraining because Dave is constantly pushing him to a new PR, and he progresses him to that PR.
Right.
He'll hit that PR and then he'll back him off a bit, and then he backs him off for the sake of reaching a new PR again.
Right. Recovery.
That man overtrains at some point in a blip of his training. That man pushes himself. Everybody else, they're not overtraining, they're just
When he
training
walks
like
out of here, he's
dumbasses.
usually doing fighting training 2 or 3 times a day.
Oh, okay.
Week 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's overtraining.
But that's the thing. It's like, but Dave and the concepts that he adopted before that with his his teachers and stuff like that. His body has learned to do that. So when does that man actually reach overtraining? Probably never. But we know because Dave and I understand the concept of 0 RIR means no reps left. Then yeah, you can easily say that sooner or later, this man is in an overtrained state, but he's doing it properly. But again, just because you're beating yourself constantly you're just training stupid.
Right.
It's just.
It's funny when you say that. I go back to watching The Biggest Loser and watching Jillian Michaels.
Oh,
Shout out
God.
Jillian Michaels on how she would.
I thought we weren't going to bring up these stupid names.
No, we're absolutely gonna do. We're gonna throw people under the bus. We don't care.
Right. No,
I don't
Jillian
mind doing
Michaels
that.
is a total jackass.
Right, and that's what I mean. That's like that, like just watching her, the way she wants to mentally push people past their, because you could do better, and I'm like, no, they really can't.
Right now, they want to do better.
Yeah, they just,
but they can't right
can't.
now.
Like, stop doing
And
that.
not
to them.
one of those results was sustained.
Right, not one.
one.
Not one.
You
And
don't
that's
see
the sad
that
part.
in
Biggest Loser even a show still?
I think so.
Oh, that sucks.
You have to hunt it down.
That means it's not.
It's not
relevant.
as mainstream as it used to be,
Yeah.
but it's
Well,
out
TV's
there.
not even mainstream anymore. It doesn't matter. So.
And the gentleman that worked, Bob, was that his name?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I liked
right.
Bob. Bob was a cool guy.
He was a CrossFit guy.
Yeah. But again, it was just like that show, while it motivated many people,
It did.
it also misled a lot of people.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
You didn't see the whole story.
you didn't see people getting hurt.
Nope. Yeah.
They didn't film that a lot. They didn't see people. I mean, for you to, the show was what? How many
16 It was
weeks?
16 weeks, I think it was.
I don't even
I
know.
think it was 4 months. You have to stay there, not even saying a word.
Think about the amount of weight these people lost in that time frame.
Yeah, no, I mean, but you think about. I've always said this too. People always looked at the percentages lost. I'm like, well, of course, someone standing here at 320 pounds, 5% of that is a significant number on a scale for other people, and no one ever explained that correctly.
Right.
I'm like, the numbers are just different. You can't compare yourself to these people that are massively overweight. Unfortunately, you just couldn't do it that way.
I wish
It didn't make sense.
that same effort, but again, people, like I said, we live in a society of extremes. But if there was actually more mainstream shows and focus on the real approach and the proper education, I mean,
Has there ever been a show that tried that? Do we know of?
No.
no,
No one wants to see.
because they would be considered
It's boring. It's very boring.
You wanna see
But
the
to some
sexy
people,
shit.
it may not be boring. It might be actually quite fascinating.
I'm pretty sure there's an audience out there that wants to know the truth.
I know nowadays it probably is a lot more than there used to be.
We need to show the biggest pumping iron loser.
The slowest gains possible.
That's
That's
The
what it
slowest gainer.
So let's circle back a little bit more. I'm going to focus a little bit more on you. So how did you actually get into fitness?
I was
Where
a
did
fat
that come
fuck.
from?
Can I say that? I was a fat fuck.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
You're
I'm
talking
gonna
about
be
yourself.
real. I'm gonna use whatever language you guys are using out there these days to categorize
guys.
yourselves before you actually change your lives and then come to the aura of wisdom that I'm in today. I was overweight my entire life until the age of 18. And then I I had a girlfriend.
There's old pictures of him.
Yes.
That look. Remember the picture of The Rock in the
Yeah,
mock
with the fanny
turtle?
pack, yeah.
Yeah. There's a picture of him that he could easily pass for that.
It's very possible.
With the
Very
fanny pack?
I don't know about that.
Oh.
But my heaviest recorded weight was 276.
Wow.
And that was after my and that was after
background
that was
guy.
after my junior prom. After my junior prom, I weighed myself on one of these weight scales on the Garden State Parkway, and I was 276, and my friends were like, "Oh,
Wait. On the gardens, what were you on? One of the way stations for the trucks?
it was one of the yeah."
Was it really?
It was one of the. It was
truck
like I
landing?
remember. It was like the rest stop shortly after Perth Amboy. And
It's down
there.
That's
There's-
down there.
there's
Like,
the
what are you doing down
Cheesequake
there?
one.
I was on my way to Atlantic City
Oh.
after the prom, and I stepped down there. You know, my friends are like, "Oh," blah, blah, blah. I'm like, "Yeah," and I used to brush it off. It never really bothered me because food made me happy, so I didn't care. But then I was dating this girl, and she always used to make jokes about my weight. Yeah, she really, and then, like I said, it never bothered me until one pool party where I think I was joking around about losing weight. And I remember this was shortly before the end of my junior year in high school when she made this joke, and I looked at her and I said, "You know what? I bet you anything I can drop weight faster than you can stop eating sweets."
Well, how much did she weigh?
She was a tiny little thing. She wasn't overweight.
But what would you say her weight was? If you had to guess.
118?
Yeah, you should have been like, I gotta lose 118 pounds real quick, bitch.
So, like, I remember I said that, and at first it was like kind of like a joke thing, but I went home that day and I kind of made a bet with myself, I guess. And that whole summer before my senior year, I kind of like disappeared for a while. My friends didn't see me as much as they usually did. And I was training I started working out at this place, a models gym on Kennedy Boulevard in, I want to say it was more West New York, but it may have been North Bergen. I'm not sure. I think in Kennedy Boulevard, no, it was West New York, because once you cross the street, then that was North Bergen. So, yeah, I just,
long.
yeah, the North Bergen is huge.
Yeah.
But yeah, I took that whole summer, and the next thing I knew, by the start of senior year, I was 230 pounds. I went from 276 that June to 230 that September. Needless to say, we broke up that month.
And for anyone who can't see, because you're listening to this, Juan is only 5'6".
So I'm 6 feet, barely 6'1". But yeah, so then it got to a point when it got to that stage where the weight loss was so dramatic that people started confusing me with my brother, because my brother and I now look so much alike. Although he's slightly prettier, but
Just slightly.
just slightly.
That's cool.
But
It's in the eyebrows.
so then after that, and then I felt great. And that's when I really learned that it didn't take a lot of change for me to get to that weight. I was still eating foods I liked, just a lot less. I really learned how much I really ate. Dude, well, I still kind of do, but I ate a lot, like a lot.
Did you record it?
No, not
No,
really.
you just
Red out of ink.
I just stopped consuming as much as I did, but continued eating what I did.
Okay.
Just consumed much less of it and worked out 3 times a week. And then, of course, being down 46 pounds, I'm like, all right, more is better. I was young. So I started getting my hands on all of the literature I can get my hands on, books. And I mean, back in the day, we didn't have, YouTube. We didn't have like
No, we had
the
Muscle and
internet.
Fitness.
We
Once
had
a
Muscle and
month.
Fit. What? Yeah, once a month. Yeah, right.
Wait.
Yeah.
And these
What are
are
they gonna
these.
do
You would read that magazine all
Yeah,
month.
these articles were great. The pictures were inspiring. And to a certain degree, they really had an idea of what was going on. They had a good sense, of how to go about doing things. But of course, I was reading Bodybuilder's Lifestyle. Like it was like, again, another extreme outlet towards fitness. Bodybuilding is an extreme effort.
Yeah.
So
It's a lot of sacrifice.
but in chasing that extreme, I was able to get into very, very good shape until eventually my adult made-up brain got to a point where like, wow, this is an extreme approach that is not suited for me because I'm not going to ever compete at this elite level. Where can I find a little bit more of a middle ground?
So you never even had that mentality that you wanted to get into the competition stuff.
No, I did.
You did.
I did because I wanted to look like what I was looking at in the pictures.
But did you ever plan to try and compete?
Not until 2010.
Oh, okay.
Where I actually did, throw my hat in the ring in there just so I can say I did it.
Okay.
But I didn't have the genetics to, and I hate saying that.
You just did.
I did.
Sorry.
I hate saying that I didn't
He's
have
a
it
liar.
because I really try not to put genetics at the forefront of anything, but they do have a say.
They definitely do.
And I respect bodybuilding enough to say that genetics will play a part in who, in fact, is the most successful in bodybuilding, whether
Absolutely.
it be enhanced or natural. All right? When you look at the top guys, it all comes down to genetics. All right? I'm not saying that you can't compete and be successful and live a bodybuilder's lifestyle as someone who has subpar genetics, but I will go as far to say as genetics play a huge role in what we would consider the top 5 in any category in the world.
Right. Get that.
I said that. It's the truth. I don't care. I've coached it. I've seen it. I've lived it. And I'm honest enough to say that you can push for it and you can keep pushing until you can see your genetic potential, and you might be one of those genetic freaks. You won't know until you try it.
Right.
I was one of those guys where I'm like, no. Not to mention the fact that I realized the commitment involved.
Oh yeah.
I was like, no.
Like I said, sacrifice.
It's not going to be for me.
Right.
It's just not going to be a consistent thing for me. But I can say that I did it. I can say that I learned a lot from it, including pros and cons. Big mistakes I made that through the time where I was coaching for a good while, I was able to teach people from my mistakes more than from what I gained from it. I taught more from my mistakes, and I was able to guide my people better from the mistakes I made, things that I shouldn't have done. Where I'm like, no, you're not doing this, and I have to say, I had a little success going on with it. I really did. I had people win pro cards. It was something that I didn't have like 20 clients at a time doing. I always had 1 or 2 at a time.
Okay.
It was something that I didn't want to, it was a hobby of mine.
Okay.
I didn't make a living like some of these great coaches out there do. Like there's a Christopher Barakat who's fantastic at it. Ryan Sullivan, who I absolutely adore. I think to me,
Dave Kalari.
Dave
I
Kalari,
haven't done that
he's
in 1,000 years.
right. He
still
Dave
did it.
definitely got it. Dave, if anything, if someone came to David and really wanted to compete, I think David could put
Oh,
a champion
absolutely.
on stage today.
Absolutely.
Probably better now than he was able to before.
You
Right.
should tell that to the people I met with last month.
Who's that?
Whether they want to commit to you or not, though, that's the difference, right?
Right, I went in and she was coming. She didn't tell me who she was coming from. She was 40. She kept saying the biggest thing was like, I'm 43 years old. I was like, I got it. We're the same age. You're going to be fine. She just needed a lot of work in terms of, she showed me the last show she had done. She was still heavy. She's like, I'm always thick. Like, I just like my lower body's thick, and I'm like, you're not lean. You need to get leaner. You need to diet harder and longer. But I guarantee you, you're not going to have to do this fasted cardio 2 hours a day. You're not going to, I'm like, we'll be able to do all the things you need to do without killing yourself. We're not going to have to do this. She's like, what about these supplements? Like, no, get rid of all of that shit.
Right.
I'm like, I have to unfuck all the stupid bodybuilding stuff that you've been fed incessantly, however many shows you've just done.
While still trying to chase an extreme, mind you.
Right.
Yep.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Because he just
whether
said
you
it, like, you
believe
need
it
to
or
get
not.
leaner, and sometimes that leaner is going to be a process that's not fun for anybody.
Anyone. Yeah. No,
You know
no,
what I'm saying?
absolutely.
And then at times, like, Dave might realize that someone that needs to get leaner means there's going to be many stages of the process until they can find it again. A lot of people, like, for some reason, they came up with the 12-week number. That's the magic number.
Right,
12
yeah.
week. For somebody, like maybe who Dave is describing, it could literally take a year.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe a year and a half.
I said minimum, this is a minimum 20 to 24 week process. So if you don't have, I'm like, if there's no show picked out, great. Because we're going to need to beef up your upper body to match your lower body.
Yeah,
Oh,
sometimes
there's a
there isn't
factor of
even
that, right, yeah.
Sometimes they don't even have mass to
Right.
work with.
And I said, if you're saying that at your age you really want to give this a serious go, let's give this a serious go. But I'm not going to just put you on stage to put you on stage.
Right.
I have better things to do. And then the husband called me, and he just said, he's like, we really loved you, your approach, everything. He's like, you came very highly recommended to us. She wants to go with someone who's a little bit more traditional. I was like, okay.
You did lose sleep over though.
Not
For what?
even a
For
wink.
what
Someone
reason?
who's a little bit more traditional. So basically you're gonna hand your wife over to a sick fuck. Because that's what traditional is. Sick fuck who's gonna take her money, ruin her entire body, her entire chemistry, leave her for dead once he's done with her.
I haven't
That's
explained.
true love
I haven't
right there,
explained
man,
how
let
to
me tell
go
you.
in stages. I'm like, we could be aggressive for 2 weeks, and we go on a little diet
Was she
break.
natural or enhanced?
Natural, but at the same time, she's like, I'm also not opposed to doing any drugs if you think I need to do it. She said, clenbuterol's fine. I was like, no, we don't need to mess with any of that shit. But it gave me a very good idea of all the coaches she's worked with. up
Well,
to
my
that
my
point.
question is,
Did the husband work out? I'm sorry. I
He
didn't mean-
did, but he's like, I think I might want to use you for something in the next couple months. I'm like, you have my number. Let me know.
but my question is to that client, that member, whoever it may be.
This is the client.
Right. Like, if you've done this with other coaches before, you've never achieved anything. What makes you think doing the same thing?
Yeah,
It's gonna get you to the better
someone
result.
shows up and it was like turns the whole thing on your ear.
Yeah, I don't
There's
understand
different
it.
degrees of sick fucks. That's why.
It's
There's different
it's-
degrees of sick fucks. I'm like, I'm a better sick fuck than he is. I guarantee you, I'll get you leaner because I'm a bigger sick fuck than
And
that
the
guy.
whole time she kept talking about, I'm prepared to like. Cause she taught at Titan Fitness up in Haverstraw,
Oh,
and she's
used
like,
to be there,
sometimes
yeah,
she's
yeah.
like, if I have to miss classes or sessions with my own clients to like get stuff in, I was like, no. If doing this hobby permeates your ability to make a living, I'm like, this is dumb. I said, nothing we do should take you away from seeing clients or teaching classes.
right.
But yet, I'm not traditional enough for it. Okay. I had nothing but
Someone more
like
traditional.
your health and your livelihood was like my first concerns. But we're still
But yeah,
over that.
hey, listen, she wanted to go extreme, let her go extreme.
Did you happen to ask him what that meant?
No, I didn't care.
God, I would have asked.
No, I knew what I was saying. They've never heard it
No,
before.
we can assume that we can assume what that meant. But I would love to hear exactly what the fuck he
I
meant.
mean, I just assume a Guy Del Corso clone all over the place. I just broke his spirits.
I have nothing against Guy, but again, it's one of
Too many
those.
people named Guy. We have too many of those.
No.
All right. Well. All right. So moving forward on
Yes.
this whole thing. Obviously, this podcast is called 40 and Fit, right? And the purpose of this podcast was to go deep into the mind of a male.
We just
ages
talked about all the fit parts, so
Right.
that's-
That leads to my next question, right? We're both from the
Working
same
out
area.
comes easy to me.
But when it comes to experience and stuff like that, or at least seeing other parents, like you're a parent, right? You're in the fitness industry, right? We come from the same as the other, and I use this example. I've said this several times on this podcast. My kids go to Seltzer. Should not have said that. But Seltzer. It's a high.
It was a test. You failed.
I know.
You said it. You said I shouldn't have said it. I said where is it?
No.
You said it again.
You screwed me up. You tricked me. You got me. But anyways, I remember dropping my kids off, and I see a lot of the parents, right? And they're about our age. Mm-hmm. And I'm like looking at them. I was like, how are you my age? I was like, you look so beat up and like out of control. Like, what do you do with yourself? Like, I don't understand how you look the way you do. And I say it both in an insulting way and in a way that.
Run out of Dumont after this.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they're gonna
You
find
look
us.
like the
There's
floor
gonna be
of
a
taxi
stone
cab.
flying through my window.
And but that's why I like to.
That's not true. They don't have the arm to throw a stone through your window.
No, they don't. But they have the cars to. But what do you say about parents that are in our age, between the ages? Again, the big focus is between the ages of 35 and 50 for men. I'll use the men. I won't use the mothers because they sacrifice a lot. But the men, like, I don't understand. Why do you think they fall off so easily, or they just give up, or why do you think that happens so often in this age range? And that's why the whole midlife crisis type of situation comes into play. And have you ever considered or thought you've had a midlife crisis also? Because I'll explain that part if you want to, where I was going with this, because I was having some weird mental issues a couple of years ago and still having it today, but I'm good to talk about it. So I don't know if you've ever gone through a weird stage the last couple of years, the last 10 years, where you questioned yourself at that age and you look at other people and you're like, what's going on here? Like, what's happening?
Okay, so, but the way you're asking, though, is
I asked a bunch of things.
You're asking as if though there is a physical symptom to a midlife crisis.
Yes and no. Like, I'm asking, is there, what is your explanation, or do you have an opinion on that whole thing? Have you ever experienced that?
Of course I do.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
Of course you do.
Yes, I definitely had a midlife crisis.
Nice. Yes.
I did.
Corvette. That's what everyone asks.
no,
no
fuck that.
Corvette.
Corvettes are
We
very
live in
uncomfortable.
Dumont. We have no Corvette.
No, I think mine. I don't know if it was a midlife crisis, but
Please
it's as close as I can get to it right at the eve of my 40th birthday.
Okay.
I definitely had something going on where I was at a crossroads in my marriage and as a father. As a professional, I was spot on. My career was definitely where I wanted it to be. I didn't have any complaints about that. I mean, maybe now, looking back at it, maybe I was overworked, but I didn't really know what that was.
So you're a grinder.
God,
Don't go
I like
there.
to
He's going to go
I
there.
like to think so. I hope I am. I can grind it like the best of them. I can.
You're going to go there? I'm waiting for Dave to
But,
go there.
But in my marriage, I definitely was. There were certain insecurities I was dealing with because I didn't have a balance between work and home.
Yeah, it's very haunting. Right.
So because my superiority complex existed so much at work, I felt like I didn't have it at home for many different reasons that I was creating in my own mind. And because of I created my midlife crisis. I did. Because what I was putting so much into work, I didn't realize I was neglecting so many at home. The neglect that I was guilty of at home created the many issues that on my 40th birthday, literally on my 40th birthday, when I sat in my car and I was done watching Man of Steel.
Oh. The worst Superman movie.
Because I remember my family and I went separate
Never seen
ways.
Superman Returns.
Yeah, we went, we saw the
Returns.
movie together, but at the time I was separated from my wife. And, but we went because the kids wanted to see it with me. They wanted to spend time with me on my birthday. On my birthday, I wanted to see Man of Steel. And I remember we went our separate ways. I sat in the car. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? And I had to rethink a lot of things about myself. The first step I had to take, the first realization I had to come to is that everything was my fault. Whether it was or not, I had to immediately take on that everything that was going wrong in my life at that point on my 40th birthday was my fault. And whether I came to realize later or not that a lot of things weren't, didn't matter. I had to say to myself, this is all my fault.
Okay.
Because as soon as I opened myself up to that, I was able to put myself in a position to heal, to better myself, to improve. But until I took that big leap that was so horrifyingly uncomfortable to me, I wasn't going to be able to do anything. Because if I ever had even this little speck in my head that, no, but this, no, but that, this is my fault, but I could have done better with this, but still this, ba ba ra, ba 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 ba. I had to be the culprit, 100%. Then I was able to seek help. I did see a therapist, although the therapist opened some channels for me where I was able to basically at some point say, okay, therapist, thank you very much for your time. You gave me all the doors, now I'm going to go and do this myself. So through reading, through time, through self-reflection, and believe it or not, through action. And coming to my wife and saying, I'm going to do this. I started listening to her more.
That was a big thing that I had to learn too.
Yeah, I had to listen to her a lot more. I had to listen to my kids a lot more. And then I started listening to my clients a lot more. That was weird. Because I thought I had all the answers when it came to my clients, but suddenly my clients had some input. I'm like, oh shit, I never heard that before. I started listening a lot more than I started speaking. And for a Cuban, that's really fucking hard. Because Cubans talk like motherfuckers. They don't shut the fuck up. But I put myself in a position, and I have not perfected this art. I'm still learning how to be a better listener. I am still not the perfect husband, but I am way better than I was 8 years ago. Although my wife will be the judge of that. But I hope she says that I am better in certain aspects and still not good in some things. But that's where I start coming.
Well, she's still around, right?
She is still around.
Well, there you go. Unless she just lowered her standards and realized what's going
No,
on.
you know what? My wife, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that my wife is the bomb. She's not perfect. I don't expect her to be perfect. But my wife is a sensational woman.
Is she perfect for you?
Yet to be determined.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because there are many times where I sit around and I say to myself, my wife deserves better. Not so much that I deserve better, but that she deserves better. Yeah, that's right, motherfucker. I'm telling you, when I sat in that car after Man of Steel, and I sat in that, I'm like, yo, I'm going to the pit of hell. And then I'm going to rise up something bigger and better to the point where I can identify that there are people around me that deserve better than me. That doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It doesn't
not at
mean
all.
that I am flawed, like you are flawed, like David is flawed.
Whoa.
Shots to those.
No.
Everybody.
We're done.
But no, hey.
No, it's real.
Part of being in a midlife crisis is understanding that you are in fact flawed and that it's okay to be flawed.
Yeah.
No one's expecting you to be perfect. I'm speaking to the world now. I'm looking right at you. You are flawed. You imperfect fucker.
That's why we started the podcast.
Yes. But that's the thing is like I say that like, so like, do you think your wife is the right woman for you? Again, yet to be determined. It's gonna be interesting when our kids are out of the house.
Can you still live together to have the same type of relationship? Yeah.
Right.
No.
Can I provide
get
for
that.
my wife? Will it be too late? Will it be a new beginning for now suddenly I'm a better husband because we're not at odds with each other because of parenting or financials involved in parenting, all that. Because parenting can be a pain in the ass for a married couple. It really can be. It can be such a kick in the balls. And you guys, you're going to be at odds in many things, and you're going to be on the same page with so many other things. But a key to that is being able to listen, before dictating anything. And I My wife and I have very different upbringings. And again, it comes. Everybody always says like your parents fuck you up. You know, they do. They fuck you up royally. And I've always been hesitant to say that about my own parents because I really don't have any complaints on how I turned out. I don't. I mean, it has cost me a lot of things. It has. But I'm able to. I'm a big boy. I'm able to just scrub off and move on. So, but at the same time, I know that there are certain things that my parents may have done or certain ways that the ways they raised me where maybe I did miss out on a lot. But you know what? I didn't expect them to be perfect either.
Well, they try their best, right? That's
They
all you
did,
can do,
and I think
tried their best.
they did a really damn good job.
Listen, you said they came from Cuba, right?
They did.
Isn't that one of the hardest transitions to come from Cuba to the States?
Absolutely. I mean, but
Immigrant parents trying to make it in America. I mean, I have the same situation. My parents tried their best.
No one's gonna have all the answers.
Yeah,
no one's gonna have all the
hard,
answers to
man.
parenting. No one's gonna have all the answers to marriage. No one's gonna have all the answers to anything. But again, that's part of working with yourself and being honest with yourself and being more accepting of yourself is understanding that you are in fact flawed and are never going to have all the answers, and you don't need to have all the answers either. You really don't have to have all the answers. Yeah, let someone else be the fucking pro.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay sitting here and telling you right now that to an extent, David has perfected our art to a degree higher than me. He has.
You got that on the tape, right?
He has. Because there are certain things, and when I see the things that Dave shares with the public, through his social media outlets, whatnot, David has a stronger grasp of things where I'm like, this man's got it. And I can easily follow him. I'm cool with that. Because
He's
I know
being
that,
humbled, man.
Right,
He's
because
being
I
humbled.
know that I am good at what I do for a living.
Right.
And part of being good at what you do for a living is understanding that your peer may in fact have a certain grasp that you may never reach.
Right.
That's cool.
Hey,
I'll learn from him and I will dumb it down so that I can teach it to the layman out there, lay woman, whatever you want to call him. And then I'll always look at him as a higher. I'm all right with that. I'm okay with that. Wow. It's no
didn't know.
different.
I have no idea.
He didn't know. Wow.
I'm the Captain America to his Tony Stark. I'm good. I will go like, all right, I need to travel in time. I'm going to Tony Stark.
Essentially, I'm going to have to give him his shield back, I guess.
Yes. I will hold the shield
Tony
while
dies.
he does all the other cool shit.
After saving everyone's ass.
Yeah.
And then Captain America disappears.
I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly okay with that. But yeah, no, it's just
So after all that,
yeah.
But actually,
Yeah, bring me back in.
To go back, though, talking about his parents, sometimes it's not always what they do, it's what they don't do. That
Yeah, it's
either
very
can,
true. Right.
I don't say mess you up, but I remember because I've had this conversation with a few people before. I was going through a very particular thing last summer, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I called my mom. And I said,
He called his mother.
I said, Ma, listen, well, you're...
I'm kidding. See, is that listening thing again? All right, go ahead. You were saying you called your mother?
I called my mother on my Hello Kitty phone, and
Shit, I can't drink this right now. Hold on.
she, I was like, Ma, I'm like, Dad always did the right thing for us, right? Like no one forced me to play sports. I came to hockey on my own. I'm adopted, so there's not a musical note in anybody in my family, but I write all the music, right? He was always there. He always supported me if I needed, money to like buy my hockey gear in high school, all that stuff. It always was a good father, right? But he never, I said to her, I'm like, he always did what was right, but there's a lot of times I don't think he did what I needed. Like, he wouldn't come to one of our band shows and be like, wow, you guys are really, really good. Or I can't believe you started playing hockey like halfway through junior year and now you're starting varsity. But he always came to the games, right? But he never like said anything. So I would always go through my life hearing compliments from people, and it would be like, well, I don't really give a shit because you're not my dad telling me that. So I had to have a conversation with him, and I didn't know if he was ready to hear it, but I didn't really necessarily care. I just needed to tell him. And after that, it's like a completely different human being to me. Like, I couldn't believe how receptive he's been ever since that. So it's not always what they do.
So that just means he didn't know then, right?
Well,
as a
some
parent,
of it, it's like, and Juan will know this verbiage, right? It's like what's modeled for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like his parents were parented
Right.
to a certain way, then
Right.
he was, and then that's what I got out of it.
I only knew what I knew from them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, I realized what I would have loved to have gotten from him, and it took me 43 years to say it, but he said it. I could tell he felt bad. He was like, I never meant to hurt you intentionally. He was like, I was always proud of you. I'm like, yeah, but you never like communicated that in a way that made me feel like, oh, he really is.
Yeah, no. As a parent, as a father, I got 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls, and I realized that I don't know certain things that I should be doing until I'm like, oh, I really should have done that. I really should have said something to my son. I really should. And it sucks when you realize 40 years into your life that, I wish my dad said this to me. And he's like, well, I didn't know I was supposed to say
And
that.
it's really simple stuff, right? I remember
Right, it's like the basics, but you
when
didn't
I
know.
came back to work here, he was like, oh, thank God Jeff took you back.
Right.
And I was like,
Comments
hold on.
like
I was
that.
like, hold on, motherfucker. I'm
Yeah,
like, he didn't
comments
take me
like
back.
that.
I'm like, and he knows because he was the first one I went into. I was like, this motherfucker should bring me back, and I should show these people how to do this shit the right way that I've been talking about for 3 or 4 years. And then I said to my father, I was like, listen, we would not be where we are without me and Andrew doing what we did. But I'm like, we would never be where we are right now if I didn't do what I decided I wanted to do. No one took me back. I fucking walked in there and made myself a fucking position. And he was like, okay.
Right. So again, he doesn't know any better. I mean, that's what, again, our parents, they just don't know. Like, I don't know. You definitely, you could say that you don't know half the things you have to tell your kids the next 5 years. You don't know. We just don't know. It's a hard reality that we think that we're smarter than we really are. It's truth. Like, I'm really dumb. I'm like, it's unbelievable how dumb I feel when I speak to my kid. My daughter is 15 and she's like the smartest person in the world in my opinion. I'm just like,
The girls are special. Daughters are special.
Yeah.
They are. It's funny. I have a daughter who's 22 and a son who's 16. And I definitely raised her very differently than I'm currently raising my son. And I got them both wrong. Because the thing is, like, with Taya, that's my daughter, who is now a fitness professional herself, after swearing to God during high school that she was not going to do what I would do for a living. She's still trying to figure her shit out, but in the meantime, she makes income as a trainer. She's done great for herself. I mean, she looks fabulous. She's in amazing shape.
She can make a mean bacon macaroni and cheese.
Cooking is another one of her loves. And raising her, I was loving. I was always able to mix the fun and the hard. Like, I always show that I played with them. Like, I would take a wrestle with them, all that stuff, spend time, like, doing, like, dumb things. I would have, like, nighttime songs for them, all that stuff. I was the guy that did that.
You can't do on supervised visits.
Right. But, like, with my son...
Bergen County's different. Just so you know.
There was always a singing blanket. There was, like, a stuffed animal show. I did all that stuff. It was, like...
So did all the stuff that's on TV. Got it.
But my guy... Yeah, right. That's where I learned it from. My parents didn't do that shit. But, I learned all my parents stuff from white people.
Growing pains.
So,
all these
but
glucozoids.
but at the same time, she'll be the first one. I was so hard on her. So hard on her.
Because you thought she could take it. Because she's tough.
I guess so. Whereas my son, now I'm trying to not be so hard on him because I felt like things that I did with her was so wrong, and I'm trying to back off. Now to the point where I'm backing off to a point I'm like, am I doing this right? Like, you just can't fucking get it right.
No, and you're never going to.
And then there are so-called pros out there that write books, how to treat your child, but it should make them grow plants with you, and make sure you feed them cactus twice a week, and make sure
Never
no
heard
time out.
any of that.
I'm like, do you
What
even
book are you
have a
reading?
child? I'm like, do we have video of you parenting your child? Like, no one gets this right. So I hate that. So I hate that there are some parents out there who are actually very good parents who are very hard on themselves. But, you know, Dave makes a good point. It's like what we didn't do. You know, because again, there sometimes like my wife. Oh God, I'm about to get in trouble. I think my wife, she's an excellent mother. She doesn't believe she is. And I think at times she does try so hard to work on their level and to be understanding of that to the point where she frustrates herself. She doesn't know if she's doing a good job. And I always try to tell her, you're doing a great job. This is normal. You're especially teenage years. This is the battle of your life because teenagers know everything. They know everything. They forget that you actually were a teenager.
That's what I say. Yeah.
They forget. They're like, we as soon as we were adults the moment we came out. I'm ready for kindergarten. Let's go. I'm ready for kindergarten. Yeah, we skipped kindergarten. We skipped kindergarten. We skipped middle school. We skipped high school. We went straight to parenting because we're that awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, it doesn't work like that. But they know it. So you have to be able to somehow back off. Because again, kids are trying to figure out their own shit. But we come from such a place of fear and such a place of loss. And then we try to dump all of that emotional baggage onto our children and expect them to handle it. They can't handle that shit.
Yep, they need the experience.
We need to back off. That's why most of the time I back off and let my kids come to me. And I don't even know if that's right. But I feel like that's kind of in the right direction. I feel like giving them the space to breathe and to kind of figure things out and let their friends like kind of like mold that world for them as well. Just like we had back in the day.
Yeah, we went through the same thing.
My parents were not as intrusive as today's parent is.
Oh.
They let us somehow find ourselves, like develop ourselves. They let us welcome the streets in a little bit more. I don't know how it worked in suburbia, but in West New York, that's where I grew up, like, which was much worse. I feel like suburbia is much more protective. Meanwhile, in much more urban areas, we were let loose.
Like I said, I grew up in Spring Valley. Raising my kids in Dumont's very different. Like
It's very different.
They're
I'm
like,
not used to it.
Yeah, no, my kids.
I'm not used to that.
My son said it to me today. Like we were talking about something. I was like, "Man, you are so bougie," and he's like, "Dad, we live in New Jersey." And I was like, what does that mean? Because he remembers living in Spring Valley also. That's why. He goes, when we lived in Spring Valley, it was a different world. I was like, you're 12. Like, shut up. Like, what are you talking about? Right.
So in one of these conflicts right now, right, because of the way I was raised, I, like when my son wants to go out with his friends or hang out a lot, like walk to school, I don't care. Like it doesn't like
yeah, that's what I say.
It doesn't raise like a red flag in me. Whereas my wife's like, you know, she's a little bit more protective in that she does. I'm like, no. Like it doesn't. As long as I know who he's hanging out with, like when if I see him developing a certain circle of friends, and I'm like, all right, we're cool. Then I don't really have an issue with my son getting out there and experiencing the world without me, so that he can get a little bit more street smart.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that the world doesn't sucker punch him.
A little more common sense.
Right.
Yeah, a little bit more common sense.
Yeah, develop more. That's the only way kids are going to develop common sense is by getting out there and figuring shit out for themselves.
They got to go through their own flaws. Yep.
So I try to like sit back, sit in the house where I'm not bugging them, let them, unless they're being a little too loud for me while I'm trying to sleep, or unless they're like being inconsiderate of our space, like leaving food out or like being like, I make sure they're not inconsiderate. That's really the one thing that I jump on when it comes to my, don't be fucking inconsiderate. You know, don't be inconsiderate, and have respect for your home and for those in your home while trying to figure your shit out. And don't put your kid in a position where they're going to disrespect you. It's not like they don't fucking know what respect is.
Right.
They really don't know the concept of respect. So teach them through certain different things what respect is. respect their own space. Once in a while, have them make their own fucking bed.
Yep.
Have them clean their room once a week. Little concept like that, like little things like that. Where like, and if they forget, you remind them. Like, oh, Dad, I'm gonna go out. No, you're not.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta
Because
do
you
first.
have to have some self-respect. Teach them that shit.
First.
Teach them self-respect. I'm like, yo, clean room is a sign of developing self-respect. Being a good athlete, and if you aspire to be a good football player, then do what good football
Right.
players do.
Lead. Yeah. Yeah,
Do so that's a form that's how you start developing self-respect. I can't expect them to respect me if they're not going to respect themselves.
Right.
So there's different exercises that you can do and teach your child to develop self-respect. They're like, you respect me. They're like, no, you know what? As a parent, you earn respect.
You have to earn it.
You earn respect by teaching them the different outlets that they can use to develop self-respect.
Absolutely.
That's how you parent like a motherfucker right there.
So
What's
hold
my
on.
name? Dad. Put some respect on it.
Teach them exercises where they can
Say it with
develop
your chest.
self-respect.
But
Right.
But real quick, so unfortunately, we have a hard stop right now.
Oh, shit.
But one
See,
thing,
Cubans don't know how to shut the fuck up.
but here's the thing: I want you to keep going, but I want you to hope. Can we do this again? Can we bring you back on
Fuck
later
no.
this week or next week? No, you're coming back because we're gonna be in your face. Because I do want to talk more about business side,
All right.
and entrepreneurship, and the industry, and again going back to seeing other parents in the way they look and what you feel about that whole
Yeah,
thing
we
too
could go
also.
back, yeah.
So I would love to go back into that, but unfortunately we do have to have a hard stop at this very moment.
That's actually, I'm glad because we did lose our way there. I lost my way.
It happens all the time. We always go off. Doesn't matter.
But the thing is, we should go back to that because
He's like following the.
I did
maze on
ask
the back
you.
of a
I did
cereal
question
box.
you on something where you saw something. There's a certain association and assumption with having a crisis, basically by looking at someone's physical state, which
Right.
I think can be. You got to be careful with that.
Oh, well, then you can explain it. But so unfortunately, we're gonna go to part 2, hopefully later this week or early next week.
Mm-hmm.
But at this very moment, we gotta end today. So I thank you for
This
being
was
on this
fun.
one. Oh, we're just gonna have a lot more fun. Trust me, when Mike gets on here, we're gonna have a lot more to go through. But as of now, we gotta go. We gotta exit this on today. So thank you for being on this one,
You're very welcome.
everyone.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So guys, say goodbye, everyone.
Light.
Peace.
Good night.